and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Real. I'm your host, Ismaili, with Next Home Dream Seekers Realty, and here with me is Carlos from My City Lending. How are you?
Good, Nini. How are you?
Oh my gosh, it's gonna be good. I'm already getting in the beginning, so
It's gonna be a fun episode. I can already tell.
Oh my gosh. So today we're going to be answering some important questions. So the topic of the day is the top 20 questions you need answered before buying a home. We're going to be covering a lot here. Some things might be more in depth, some things might be more general. So if you guys have any questions at all, please comment, reach out to us directly. As you know, we have our information usually going through the bottom here. So you can just send us a text, email, whatever is easiest, and we can get further detail with you. So before we get started, as usual, we're going to go with the myth of the day. And today's myth is, once my offer is accepted, the hard part is over. So what do you have to say about that, Carlos? Do you think that's true?
I mean, that's it. For the most part, it is. You know what I mean? Because usually, like when we pre-approve somebody, we pretty much like pre-underwrite the file. You know what I mean? So a lot of it is, but then you still have to submit it to underwriting and get the conditions, and then order the appraisal, which we can't control. So I guess it's not true then.
It is not true, exactly. I mean, for good lenders, it could be mostly true, right?
Yeah.
Because I know you do a very thorough pre-approval where the client's basically underwritten approval already, and we're just going to be pending conditions such as inspection, appraisal, and so on and so forth. But no, I don't think overall this is true. I think really that's when we get to work really. Like I was working, you were working on a pre-approval, I was working showing houses, but now we actually have work to do in order to make, the deal happen and the client to get the house. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's a lot that happens. And I think people need to understand that in the background, while, you guys are super excited, our offer got accepted. Awesome. We're going to buy this house. There's so many little things that has to happen in the back end. We're talking title commitment, the mortgage commitment, the appraisal, home inspection, title certification, tax certification, background checks, deed preparations. I mean, there's so much that happens that the client doesn't see, but we have to make sure it's done and it's done on time. And we have certain timelines within the agreement of sale that we have to fulfill. So it's a lot. That's when the work begins. But for the buyer, I think that's kind of mostly true. Like, oh, I found the home, I'm on the contract. Yay. So yeah, different perspectives, but the work starts when we get on the contract.
Absolutely.
So, awesome. Yeah, that's the myth of the day. And I think it was kind of instructive too, so people understand what happens. So 2 in 1. So let's go back to the title of the day, which is the 20 questions you need answered before buying a home. And today we're going to change things up a little bit. We actually have a special presentation from Novus Mortgage, which is the company that owns My City Lending from Carlos' side. And I'm going to put it on the screen for all of us to see it. So here we go. Hopefully everybody can see that. Oh, that's the slide we want to be in. So top 20 questions you need to answer before buying a home. Let's go into number 1. How do I begin the process of buying a home? Do you want to get started on your end? Maybe you can talk the financing side of this.
Yeah, so I would say the first thing you want to do, when you decide, okay, I'm going to buy a home, is you need to get pre-approved. So you call me and I get an idea of your financial situation, get an idea of what program we're going to potentially go in. And then you fill out the application. You would upload all the documentation. We do verifications of employment, all that stuff. And then once you're pre-approved, then Nini kind of steps in. And then I could say, okay, Nini, so-and-so is approved at X amount with X amount in taxes. And those are your parameters for what they can buy.
Yeah. And I would say, like, in this step, we can even take a couple steps even further back, right? Because reaching out to you is always going to be the first step, but it may not be the exact beginning of getting the pre-approval because someone might not
Right.
in the ready to go phase. The reaching out to you is still a strategy, a good strategy, a good step to take, because if they're not ready, then they will know they're not ready, and then you're going to guide them into preparing to get
We can
ready.
prepare them so that they become ready. Yep.
Exactly. So I would say in this phase, things to consider would be, where is your credit score? Are you above the 620 ideally? If not, let's start working on that. And again, reaching out to Carlos, he can give you some guidance and tips on how to get there faster, right?
Yep.
Another thing to consider on this beginning, answering this question is, what are you guys exactly looking for, right? Like, what's your current income? What are your expenses monthly? How much do you have available? I mean, if you're renting, of course, that would be part of it. How much do you have available reasonably to be comfortably paying for a mortgage payment?
How much would you be comfortable paying monthly? It's like, so like when I do my pre-screen, with the buyer, I'll ask them, first of all, who's going on the loan? Is it just you or you and your significant other? That's the first thing. The next thing is, an idea on credit. Do you have a rough idea of where your credit is? Mm-hmm. Then I ask them, like, how long have they been at their jobs for? Are they W-2 or are they 1099? Because that's going to determine, that also. What kind of debt load are they carrying? Because if you make, I don't know, let's say you make $4,000 a month and you owe, between $1,200 or $2,000 a month, and in car payments and credit cards and personal loans and all that stuff, well, then you're probably not ready. You might need a cosigner or something like that,
Exactly.
And then I asked them, how much money do they have saved up, or where's the money from closing coming from? Sometimes, they have they don't have money in the bank, but they have a 401k, or they have a parent or a family member that can gift them money, or they need down payment assistance. And then we have to make sure that they would qualify for the down payment assistance.
Correct.
So yeah, you're right. Like it is, like, calling me is the first thing to see if you're there, or I need to put you on the path so that you can be ready.
Get there. Yeah. And really understand what they can expect, right? Because a lot of people may have like, oh, I have this idea, I want a house that costs X amount, but they don't fully understand, okay, that X amount is going to be, X monthly. Is that monthly really where you want to be? There's wiggle room up. There's no wiggle room up. We have to actually go down. So, that's this phase, like answering this first question, how do I begin, is really understanding your budget, your finances, your savings that you must have depending on what you can qualify, your credit score. It's really just having a good education of yourself, understanding your financial profile. And the best way to really understand that even further is talking to Carlos way ahead of time. So if you're thinking, oh, I want to buy a house next year, well, you should be calling Carlos right now, because now you're giving yourself the most time to prepare to buy a house next year, right? And
absolutely
getting the best advice to prepare.
And a lot of the time, going back to what you were saying, I want this house, you know what I mean? A lot of the time people qualify for X amount, but they really don't want to pay X amount. You know what I mean? Like they really don't want to pay that. They're like, oh no, I want to be here. I'm like, all right, well then you're not at this price. Then you're going to need to be around this price to be at that payment that you're trying to be at.
Or you need to save X amount to put it towards a down payment so you can keep your monthly payments at that range that you want to be within that purchase price. So different things,
yes,
right?
No, because the problem is that the down payment doesn't really help you too much when you're looking at, so
unless it's a substantial down
I'm sorry?
payment. Unless it's a substantial down payment.
That's what I mean, because like $10,000 a month, $10,000 in the sales price is only going to equate to about $60 to $66 a month on a monthly payment difference. You know what I mean? But like maybe you can look for a house that has lower taxes, because $1,000 a month and $1,000 in taxes is about $83 a month. So that'll have a bigger impact. And then we kind of figure out what we can do to kind of make it more comfortable for you.
Yeah. Or if you are able to save money to put a 20% down, that would definitely help with the monthly payment. But on top of that, you will not have the mortgage insurance, the MIP, cost, and that even further decreases that monthly payment. So it really depends on your situation. If you're able to save much more,
that's exactly what I was gonna say. Everybody has a different situation. The best thing to do is call me so we can talk and figure out what your situation is and what we can do to help you achieve your goal, which is, to own a home at the end of the day.
Exactly. So yeah, this first question is a very important one. It's the foundation of starting your home buying process.
Yep.
Next one, how does purchasing a home compare with renting? And I can get started on this one and you can add in on the financing, but I would say on owning a home, first of all, you're paying yourself, right? That's the biggest benefit. You're building your net worth. You are paying yourself your own mortgage. You're not paying someone else's mortgage. And that is, despite whatever terms you have, is still better to always pay yourself than someone else. But the biggest difference that people need to understand, especially when they're coming from renting, is that you own the home now. So you need to take into account that you're going to have to pay all utilities. You're going to have to maintain the house yourself. There's no more calling the landlord, hey, my water line broke, like whatever it be, right? So there's things that you need to consider. So having a little bigger cushion for, unforeseen costs, it's important when you are a homeowner. So there's a lot of things to consider too, outside of just like, yes, of course, it's better to pay a home for yourself than renting, right? But there's other things you need to consider because your costs might increase slightly because, again, you own it, you take care of it, you maintain it. It's you, yourself, and your house, right? There's no landlord involved. So I think that's the biggest thing.
You, yourself, and you.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I think is nice to mention, compared to renting, there's tax benefits. So when you own a home, you're paying interest throughout the year, right, on your mortgage payments. So when you come to the end of the year, you do your taxes. The beginning of the year, you do your taxes. There is a tax benefit, tax advantage there. So owning a home,
you can depreciate also. That's another, tax benefit. Also, like you're able to, customize your home because it's your home. Sometimes like when you live in, say, like a complex or something, you know what I mean? Like you can't change the painting, you know what I mean? You can't have so many trees, you can't, you can only have so many plants, there. So they control a lot of that stuff. But I think the biggest thing,
right, freedom to do what you want with your place.
Absolutely. But I think the biggest thing is that, you're building your equity. You know what I mean? Like you're paying yourself. When you rent, you're just paying there and you leave and you have absolutely nothing. When you own, you have the potential to walk away. Like I was talking to a client today. They've had the house for maybe like 8 or 10 years at this point. And the house, I think they bought it at 100. It's worth like 300 now. And they only owe like 50 grand on it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So like he's going to tap into that equity and he's going to start buying investment properties now.
That is huge. And we mentioned this on the previous episode.
Yep.
So when you own a home, you're actually investing in your future. You're basically creating a separate retirement account, because remember I mentioned the reverse mortgage at the end, where you can pay yourself monthly from the equity of your home, basically so to fulfill, the lack of Social Security or maybe for a 1K that you may have at that point. So there's so many ways to tap into that equity. Or you can just, it's building wealth. It's passing on something to your children,
Absolutely.
In the future. Other thing to consider too, when you're renting, you always have the fear, like next year, is my landlord's going to raise my rent? When you own a home, that's not going to happen. You have a fixed payment. If anything, your payments could go down because the more you pay on it, if you are paying PMI and mortgage insurance, that could go off at some point. So it's going to reduce. Taxes always go up annually. So, but that should not be as high as a landlord rental increase would be. I would say I don't think you can compare. Also,
like if you're a pet owner, a lot of landlords will charge you more if you have pets. You know what I mean?
Very true.
You're not gonna have to pay more for your mortgage because you own a pet. You know what I mean?
Or you don't have a pet because you rent. Now if you own a home and you want a dog and a cat and a bird, you can get whatever you want to get. You know what I mean? Because it's your own home. So there's so many benefits in comparison rent buying versus renting. Of
Absolutely.
course, I think the only time that someone that is renting should remain renting is if they are not certain of where they want to be, being because of work, being because really they just don't know the area. I think that's the only times that someone should be renting, is if they don't have that flexibility yet, or they are not fixed in one place yet. They're too flexible with location, and or don't know the area yet. So the only recommendations I would do for renting is, let's say you're moving to a new place and you don't necessarily want to buy a house yet because you don't know the area, then rent for 6 months, a year, get to know the area, then get into a home, because you don't want to stay renting for 10, 15 years, even 5
Absolutely.
years. You know what I mean? So get to know the area, know where you want to be, and then look into buying a home right away. Because renting, again, it does nothing to you, and you're just paying someone else's mortgage on a monthly basis at 100%
Absolutely.
interest.
That's very true.
Yeah. Alrighty. So question number 3. How do I know if I'm ready to buy a home? I already answered this. Call Carlos.
Yeah.
Like when you're going through question number 1, right? How do I prepare and what should I consider? This should kind of be preparing you to answer this question, but really talking to Carlos and getting started on the financing, pre-approval process will really determine, are you ready now, or should you start preparing for 3, 6 years from now? And he's going to be able to guide you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, the best thing to do is to call me so that we can figure out, like if you're ready. You know what I mean? And if you're not ready, how do we get you ready at the end of the day?
Exactly. What would you say are some things that a buyer could do right now if they're looking to buy a home to better prepare to buy a home?
I would say the biggest thing that you can do is if you have high utilization on your credit cards, you want to lower that, because utilization is such a simple thing sometimes, because sometimes people have a lot of debt, so
Exactly. Yeah.
but sometimes utilization is such a simple thing and can make such a big difference to your credit that it's nuts. Like I've done what ifs for clients where they paid down, it was younger credit, but they paid down 2 cars for like $1,000, and they went from like a 600 to a 700. Like I've seen jumps of like 80 to 130 points.
Wow.
Just by playing with utilization, getting something deleted. But I would say my top things would be utilization, control utilization, and definitely if you're an hourly employee, make sure that you're always working your 40 hours so that you don't get hit with variable.
Oh,
That's
I see.
super important, because if you don't have, like, if you're an hourly employee and you don't have 40 hours, you're going to get hit with variable income, and most of the time it's going to be lower, which is going to lower your buying power, when you're getting looked at, to buy a mortgage, or buy a house and get a mortgage.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm like,
you buy a house and you get a mortgage. No, that's true. So yeah, definitely good tips there. And I get savings too, right? Like the more you save, the better.
The more you save is better, even if you don't use it. But if you show it, the reserves make you a stronger buyer in the eyes of the bank. And when you have reserves, it'll allow you to extend your DTI a little bit more, because you have reserves. So that's always a positive.
Yeah. And I would say specifically for independent contractors, this advice, if you are planning on buying a house, do not deduct everything you possibly can on your taxes. Okay.
No, I would say call me. You know what I mean? If you're planning on doing something next year, call me this year, and let's put a game plan together so that you're able to qualify. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you need 2 years of a median income for independent contractors. So even if
unless they've been in the business for 5 years, and you can get away with a 1-year look back.
Perfect. So yeah, one more reason why definitely reach out to Carlos before tax season. That way you guys can strategize to get you in a better position to get the home you need to get where you want to get, right? So There's a
Absolutely.
lot of prepping work that can be done for sure, and that one is in particular to independent contractors. Okay, so how do I know what I need? Well,
That's all
this one
you.
is that's on me, right? So going back to like the only reason you should be renting is if you don't know the area, right? Or if you are not staying in a place for too long or you're uncertain because of a job situation. But if you are and you're ready to get started looking for a home, you need to really understand your needs of your current home. What is missing on where you're living as of today? Is it not enough space? Is it need of additional bedroom? Or is the school district not great? Do you want a better school district? Start writing down the reasons that whatever you are at now, being renting or an existing home that you owe on, and start writing what doesn't work and what you're looking forward to in the new home. And then that's kind of going to really help, especially when you're working with a professional like myself, to determine what the best areas would be, what the best price range would be for the areas you're looking for. Because again, some areas may have specific price ranges for houses that are the type, style, condition, size that you're looking for. So determining that can help you. Okay, right now I can only qualify for X, but I need X plus one for the house I want. So maybe I'll hold off, work with Carlos, better prepare. 6 months from now, I'll be able to get this X plus one budget and buy the house I want. So really understanding. Sorry, I clicked to the next again.
I was gonna say, and maybe it's not the house you want, but really like your necessities. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
don't go off of, unless you're at the place where you're gonna be buying your dream home.
Yeah.
Then that's fine. But if you're a first-time home buyer, you're probably not buying your dream home. Get what
Yeah,
you need so you don't have to rent. The house doesn't have to click all your boxes because you're not gonna be there forever. You can save up, in a year or 2 years, you can turn that into a rental for you now and move into something, that clicks another box. So maybe if you have like 10 boxes, get a house that your necessities are 5 of the 10 boxes, clicks
Yeah.
5 boxes. The next house can click 6 to 7 boxes total. Eventually you get to your 10 boxes, but in the meantime, you're building your portfolio, you're building equity, like get your needs, don't get your wants. That's the only thing I would add.
And that's what is exactly what I was going to get to. You need to determine what are the
Sorry, I beat you to it. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That was perfect. But yes, you need to determine what those must-haves are and that you can get by as of today without it. And then create a wish list of things like, oh, this would be great to have, but it's not a must. We need to really determine. I feel like when, especially a brand new first-time home buyer, their wish list is ginormous. They want everything, but what do they need? And that's what we need to kind of fine tune it. Carlos said it perfectly. Your first home is most likely not going to be your forever home or your perfect home. Your second home might still not be your forever home or perfect home. It's just going to be a better version of the first. But if you are in a perfect position to buy the dream home, great, good for you. We will find it. But majority of people are not, right? So I would say
that's what I said. Like if you're a first-time homeowner, you're not going to be buying your dream home.
And I would say 99% people are not, but you can definitely find something that fulfill your needs as of today within your budget. I mean, I live and breathe this on a daily basis. Everybody that comes to me ends up buying what they needed at that point. And then later on, they're going to find out I need this and this and this as well. And that's when you buy your second home.
Absolutely.
But that is definitely very important. So thanks for pointing that out.
Man, there's so much good information on this. We're going to have like 4 parts to this.
I know. I'm gonna see if we can get, I think we might need to actually, you're right, maybe stop at 5. We do part 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's see. Question number 5. What should I look for when deciding on a community? So this is important, and it falls a little bit, it falls a little bit with the previous one. So what are things that are important for you and your family? Do you want to be as the walking distance to restaurants and, conveniences and, maybe school or whatever it be? Or no, you're okay driving, right? Or are you looking for a community that is having things going on, events, or you're looking for more like a sparse, more private, no neighbors nearby you, right? So you really need to understand exactly why it keeps jumping around for me. I'm gonna
It's
keep
saying, okay, move it along. We got a lot of
it's going automatically. Okay, time's up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so understanding like a commuting time that is ideal, so that way we can determine like how big of a radius are we looking for. Is that community specifically for a school district that you're looking to stay under? Some people really want to stay in not just a high school district, but also like an elementary. So your search radius is really tight. So we can do that as well. So understanding what those needs are will determine the type of community you're going for. Maybe you're trying to stay close to family and friends, like it says there, or you're trying to stay close to work, and we can also do that. So, and then within work, maybe you're trying to find a specific business that you like to get close to, and you want to be within 10 minutes from that. So there's so many different things that we can look. What is that?
Good restaurants.
Yeah, that's good restaurants, family, friends, libraries, shopping centers. Maybe my cousin lives right there. My mom lives right here. I want to be right in the middle. Like exactly. I've had people ask for that. So that's going to help you determine the community that you're looking for. And the style of neighborhood you want to be in also is going to help me determine.
Especially when you have like new families, you know what I mean, and they want their mom close, so that like if they need a babysitter, you know, they don't have to go too far for the babysitter, you know what I mean, or the babysitter doesn't have to go like completely out of their way to help you out. So things to consider.
True. That is true. That is so true. And then every person is going to have different needs and requirements, and you know, so. The determining the area that you're looking for, and we say community, but really it could be just an area, it could be a radius, it could be whatever you want to be. If you want to be just in a school district, and then you can be as large of an area or as narrow of an area as you want, and then that's what's going to determine what your price range should be and why not. So we can really fine tune it as detailed as possible.
And like how much land you need, you know what I mean? Because like I have clients that say, hey, listen, I don't want nothing under an acre.
Yeah.
I mean, like I need an acre of, you know, like, and then you have clients that are living, you know, in
they're like, I just want some yard, some green in the backyard. That's it. Yeah. Like, just want something. And I'm like, okay, so I know no condos. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it really helps when they understand. Like, so you guys need to understand what type of area you want to be living in, because then we can really fine tune the homes that are going to be alike in those areas that you're looking at. So really understand what your needs are, bring that over to your real estate professional so we can really fine tune that search criteria area and provide you with the best home options based on your budget. Then you determine with Carlos ahead of time.
Absolutely.
So you want to continue on this one? I think we should continue.
We can.
Yeah.
We're going to see if we get to 10.
There you go. Yes. So number 6, selecting the right lender and real estate agent. I mean, this is a big one. No, you don't even need to think about it. Just get me in the car.
Yeah. No, we're right here. next slide.
I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding yet. But yes, working with the right team is going to be key for your, successful home buying journey. You want to have someone that is there, that is knowledgeable, that will, provide you, educate you along the way. So you're not just like winging it. You actually understand what you're doing. If you sign a document, you know what that means, what you're doing it for. Your real estate agent covered that with you. Or the numbers, you know exactly how much you're going to pay, what your interest rate is, what are the conditions with your lender. So really, really having a good team is essential. I know I have clients that have come to me and said, oh, my cousin is a real estate agent. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best option for you. I understand sometimes the family can get it tricky, right? But just think that you're doing
sometimes working with family isn't the best.
Yeah, unless you're my cousin, then it's okay. I'm just kidding. But you've got to think about it.
No, but you're right. Even though they're cousins, they might have different personalities, and they just, like, hey, I love you, but like I need this type of personality in my realtor, you know. And
yeah, and it could be, like you said, it could be a personality thing. It could be just you want someone to have a more expertise in a certain area, that you want to find something, or it could be that it's, a language thing. So maybe, this person doesn't speak the language and you prefer speaking that language with that person.
absolutely,
So there's so many different factors,
it
but
could be a cultural thing.
could be a culture thing. Like, I'm from Brazil. Maybe I have a client that just wants to work with a Brazilian realtor. Find a
Yep.
Brazilian realtor. Dominican, find a Dominican realtor. And it's about you as the buyer feeling comfortable with who you're working with. That's the ultimate, should be the ultimate decision there. You shouldn't have
Absolutely.
to feel obligated to work with a friend or a cousin or myself, whatever it be, just because. You should be choosing someone that you feel it's going to be there by your side, because ultimately that's what comes down to, looking out to your best interest, that have the expertise and knowledge that you need in order to move forward. I feel like the lack of experience sometimes can be detrimental, especially if you have a new loan officer, a new real estate agent working for you. You're probably going to miss out on some opportunities because of the lack of knowledge. So, having the expertise to back you up is also very important. And those are all factors you as the consumer should be taking into account when interviewing for professionals. And I do say, yes, I want you to work with me, and Carlos wanted to work with him, I'm sure, but we wanted to interview you. We wanted to go out there and find the best professional for yourself.
Absolutely,
We would love
absolutely,
the
yeah.
opportunity to interview with you, and be the professional representing you. But just keep that in mind. You definitely want the best for you as the consumer, always.
Yeah, I agree with you, 100%.
So let's go number 7, finding home prices in communities and neighborhoods. So this is going to be me working with you side by side for sure. Once Carlos gives me a good idea of what your financing side looks like, so your budget, your estimated monthly payments, your estimated interest rates, what kind of assistance you're getting or not, or need or not, right? Then that's going to help me a lot to determine the home prices and the communities and neighborhoods that will appeal to your search criteria. So the more information I have, the easiest it's going to be for me to find the best homes for you, and also send you the best recommendations based on that financial profile. So that's why it always comes back to the pre-approval. Understanding, having a pre-approval handy, and knowing exactly what it's needed, it's going to put you in the best position for us to find the perfect deal. Because I need to know, do you need seller's assistance? So I can negotiate seller's assistance. So I'm not going to be.
You're not gonna be able to. You're not gonna be able to show them a house, for example, that just hit the market. If they need 6% seller's assist, you want to look at houses that maybe have been on the market for
5 days,
45 days or more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I still can show it, but we have to keep realistic expectations when it comes to, hey, I need 6% seller's assistance. Then we're going to have different conversations at that point, right? Or are you looking for brand new homes? So I'm not going to show you, sending you properties in areas that don't have new construction, that are like more mature neighborhoods, right? So there's different things that we can look into. But knowing the finances really is a big one, because it will help me determine which houses to show it to you. For example, one easy one, if I don't know the loan type that you qualify for, I won't know what kind of home to show you, because there are loan types such as, for example, USDA, it's an agricultural loan. So there are areas that you cannot even look at if you're buying with an USDA loan, right? Because it's as an eligibility map type of loan. Right. Or an FHA loan or VA loan, which is the military loan. They have certain, safety and condition criteria for the home. And if the home doesn't abide by those safety criteria, it's going to be very hard for us to put an offer on that house, because the house itself doesn't qualify for the loan type. So very different factors that can determine this piece here. But also understanding if you know yourself what you're looking for, it will be easier for me to also assist you in finding those homes in the right communities and neighborhoods. Anything to add in this one?
No, I think you got it. I think you pretty much had it. Like, you have to know, like, USDA is the perfect example.
Yeah.
You can't, like, sometimes you can get, houses that are somewhat in the city that are USDA eligible, but for the most part, it's more of an agricultural loan.
Agricultural loan. Yeah.
Yeah.
So number 8, is an older home a better value than a new construction? Well, today, yes.
Yeah,
I think that's an
exactly.
easy answer. Overall, yes.
Yeah. I feel like new construction, they're like, they just came up with like a template and they just keep doing the same template. Like, it's not like people think new construction, they think, okay, I'm going to customize my house and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And then you go to a new construction, they're like, oh yeah, this is the house. This is what you get. No, but I want the kitchen here. This is what you get.
Yeah. I mean, so there's different types of new construction, right?
Exactly.
So you have the majority of them are like this. Like, you have options A, B, C. Pick one, and then you can choose the colors, 1 through 5.
Right.
So you can have some personalization, but not really too many. You're not moving walls. You're not, customizing things. Now there are these semi-custom or custom builders.
Those are different, yeah.
But then you're actually paying for it.
Oh, don't you pay for it?
So I feel like, to answer this question directly, is an older home better value than a new construction? Overall, yes. Because you can buy a 3,000 square feet older home for, let's say $400,000, right? But you can never build a brand new house that is 3,000 square feet for $400,000. Not in today's market, not in our area. I don't know. Unless you find me, please let me know. Call me. Call the number below. Let me know, because I'm. So overall, yes, but there are things that are more interesting to people that are looking for those customizations. That might be more appealing to go to the new construction route. But do know that yes, overall, you're definitely paying more for a new construction home and getting less than if you're just pursuing an existing home. Agreed. So value definitely much better there. And there are factors that you can even chime on this, Carlos, for new construction that people just don't think about. But unless you're going for the builder that it has, option A, B, C, pick one and go for it, which is still more expensive than existing homes. But let's say you go semi-custom and custom, those are like to-be-built homes and you're doing a new construction loan type. The biggest caveat to that is that they do have to make ongoing payments while the house is being built, while still paying for their existing home or their current rental.
Yep.
And that can be pricey. Can you expand on that a little bit? Because I think that's important too.
So definitely when we're qualifying for new construction, we have to qualify them with the rent and the max payment of the interest, because it's based on draws. So as as the new construction advances, your monthly payment is going to get higher because you're borrowing more money. And then, but when you qualify you, we have to qualify you with that highest monthly payment, because that's ultimately where you're going to end up at. So that could also lower your buying power, because even though you're not paying that the whole time, we have to qualify you with that on it.
Yeah.
So that's another drawback of new construction.
And some people may not even be able to make two payments.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
So that's another factor to consider when you go in new construction that is going to be in place for something that is to be built. Now, there are some, what we call the quick move-in options, that maybe a builder already built a home. It's always going to be ready in like 2-3 months. So we can still put it in the contract and do a regular purchase. But just know those quick moving ready homes are usually more expensive because they are quick move-ins. They're ready to go.
And you can't really customize anything else on it.
Can't really customize anything else.
Done.
And you're paying a little primer because, yes, they are hard to find and a lot of people are going for them. So you end up paying a little prime value on them. So yeah, this slide, I think overall the answer is yes, you're definitely getting a better value on an older home. But if you're looking for like, I want a brand new home because I don't want maintenance, because I don't want to have to worry about the structure of the home because it's older, I want something more energy efficiency, or I want some customized features, then yes, new construction is a no-brainer. Just take into account that it's going to cost you a little bit more. Actually, a lot more. Taxes on a new home is much higher than an older home. And that's another factor, taxes. I didn't think about that, but taxes on a new home, it's always going to be much higher than on an existing home, because the assessment value that is used for tax purposes for an existing home may be from like years ago, and then a new home is going to be assessed as of today that is being built, and then the tax is going to be much, much higher. So that's another caveat.
A very good point.
Yeah. Okay, number 9. What should I look for when walking through a home?
That's all you.
So that's another one for me, but you can chime in there too. Like, you bought a home before, so you can
I did.
So I would say, from the real estate perspective, or like being a professional real estate agent, there are things that we want to be very mindful of. So looking through a home, does anything stand out in the wrong way? Are the windows updated? Because windows, if they're not double pane, they're like the older style single pane windows, you need to consider that you're probably going to have to spend more in utilities on a monthly basis, because the house is not going to be as insulated or energy efficient as the windows that have the windows that are newer. Does it have any signs of water infiltration? It could be stains on the ceilings. I always look, first thing I come into a property, I'm looking at the ceiling. Was any signs of water markings? That's a huge takeaway for either having plumbing issues or roof issues. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Cracks. So there are cracks that are okay, because they're like, especially for older homes, they're just settlement cracks. You're going to have cracks in homes, especially when they're older. And then if they're fine line cracks that kind of move around, that is okay. Even straight cracks, depending where they are at, if they're fine line, that's okay too. But when you start seeing displacement, especially if it's over 1/4 of an inch in any direction, in any, if it's straight or not, that's when you should be concerned, especially if those cracks are showing even on the foundation, like if there's a basement and you can see those. That is a big no-no sign. Any bowing on the walls, even if you don't have a crack, you see, like you look on the side and see a little bit of a bowing starting. That means that there's something pushing against the foundation of the property, and it could be on something that's going to become a pretty big issue later on
down the line.
And foundation repairs are so expensive, so definitely something to keep on. But also things like, not in regards to condition, but overall for you and yourself and your family, like you have your furniture that you already have in your house. Does that fit in that property? Does that make sense for you?
Do you like the floor plan? Like the way it is? Like, you want the kitchen in the front, you want the kitchen in the back? I
have some clients like that come in and they're like, oh, we can just move this wall and then we can do this, like HD TV, right? I'm going to just open this wall and I'm going to renovate this and move this bathroom over here. But they're like, okay, you're not thinking about the cost. Those things are very pricey to do. Are you actually taking into account that within your budget, right? So sometimes it's better to find a home that the layout already works as is. And the only thing you're doing is coming in and taking care of cosmetics, painting, flooring. Those are easy to do, appliances that you can update. But when it comes to changing the layout, if you were looking at it and how this house needs to move this wall and move the bathroom here or add a bathroom there, that's when you're like, okay, this is not the house, right? Especially if you're a first-time home buyer. Unless you're going for like a renovation loan style where you're planning, then it's a different story. But if you just
look at all the walls you want to knock down.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say, like, understanding that floor plan is really, really important. And then, the mechanicals of the home is another really important thing too. If it's a central air, is the central air HVAC unit, being
when was
maintained?
it serviced?
Yeah, it's being serviced annually. Do we have records for that? We're definitely going to look into getting inspection done after you get on the contract, but looking at things like that ahead of time, like you can always look at the service to see if it's being serviced, annually or not, because they usually mark it in there. Not that we can trust that, because anybody can write in there, but it's just little things like that we can look at. The water heater, is it too old? Is it being updated within the last 10 years? The roof, we can look at it and kind of tell, like, is it older? Is it still looking in good condition. So there's a lot of factors, a lot of things that you can look into a home.
Does
From
it have enough
condition,
room for you and your family?
yeah, is the bedroom the right size? Like you have 4 kids and the house has 3 bedrooms. Is the other 2 bedrooms big enough to fit every
Yeah.
kid in there?
Will your bed fit in the room?
Yeah, do you have a king size? We have a 10 by 10 master. I don't think it's gonna work. So yeah, all these things need to be taken into account when you walk into a property. Don't try just to make it work just because, but also don't be too picky, you know. So you have to find the happy balance. Like,
Happy medium, yeah.
yeah, you know, does it make sense? Does it fit? Or maybe I was just planning on changing the couch anyway, so I'll just buy a couch to meet the space better. So all those things you have to think, and it's going to involve cost, it's going to involve work, it's going to involve adjustment from your family.
Yep.
So all factors to take into account.
Is the yard big enough for the dog?
Yeah. Does it have a fence or not? Are you okay putting a fence if there isn't a fence, right? Is the neighbors too close? How do the neighbors look like? Are they the trash hoarders, or are they like a very nice neighbor with a pool? Like, you know, like. So the neighborhood is also, I'm glad you brought that up, because the neighborhood is another factor. Like maybe the house is perfect, but then when you drove around the neighborhood, you hated it. Are you okay with that? Are you going to be one that's going to want to walk the dog? And if the neighborhood is not okay, you're not happy with it? Maybe that should be taken into account as well. So
absolutely.
Yeah, very good point there. And then let's get into our last for this episode, which is how long will I be living in this home? And that's a big one. I'll let you start on this one, Carlos, because I know we mentioned something about it before too.
Yeah, so like I said, if you're a first-time homeowner, it's probably not your dream home. 99% of the time, it's not going to be your dream home. So it's something that doesn't click off enough necessity buckets for now. Yeah. So like, if you just got out of school, you really don't need, 3 bedrooms. Maybe you can get away with 2. And then maybe like a year or 2, you met somebody, you started a family, now we need a bigger home, but you kind of scale into it. And like I said, it's all about, tick whatever boxes you can tick with just your necessities from your wants, and then go from there, because like I said, it's usually not your forever home. You're probably going to be in a home for 2 to 3 years at least, before you move into the next one, and then another maybe 5 years on the second one because you're more comfortable, potentially, and then you'll get into your dream home by your 3rd or 4th home maybe.
Yeah. And I think on this slide, there's a little bit of strategy on this too, because if you are just buying this home and you're planning on staying in it for as long as you can tell, right? So maybe the guidelines are going to be a little different, but let's say you know for a fact you're buying this home and you're definitely moving in 2 years because of work, whatever. Then the strategy might be a little bit different. Maybe we're looking for something that is specifically you could keep it as a rental because that's your goal, or something that I know, an area that I know is going to grow in value. That way, in 2 years, you have enough equity to sell, right? So that's the strategy. You're going out of state.
Are you looking for appreciation, or are you looking for cash flow?
Exactly. Are we looking for a good area for a rental, or are we going for an area that I know for sure you can resell for more in 2 years? So different strategies there. If you're staying for at least 5 years for sure, that's my goal, then yes, we may recommend a grant that may not have you pay for anything after 5 or 10 years. But if you're planning on selling in 2, we're not going to recommend a grant that has you pay stuff in less than 5 years. So so much strategizing. So this year, I know we don't want to be nosy on your life, but this question should be answered to us so we can strategize with you in the best terms and kind of think later down the line, okay, what is the goal, how long you want to stay here for, what is the type of home, and what are you planning to do with this home later on. Let's not get this now maybe as a grant, or maybe let's get it because you're planning on staying long enough to pay it off for, or let's get something can build equity. So many questions that can be answered just determining this one along. And then talking to Carlos ahead of time, he can help you, determine what those strategies are on the financing side as well. And with me on the type of home that we're going for. So This is a good slide. Good question.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think we're gonna stop here for our part 1. That way we can answer the next 10 questions on our part 2 of top 20 questions you need answer before buying a home.
Or maybe part 3 at this
Or
rate.
maybe part 3, yeah, that was an hour episode. So hopefully you guys stuck around with us. I think this was good, and I am looking forward to talking to you guys on part 2 with the next 10 questions.
The next one.
Talk to you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.